the mild hold-up was there. But that was actually a very quick WC there. So I am hoping that that was actually they just decided to get the pigs done, and then he can go while the game is loading. Anyway, we're going to have some meaningless bans now, guys, and everyone's just going to repick the same champions, but while that's going on, I think we could probably just go into a break. We will be back with you when the game loads. Yeah, okay, we're going to be going into a quick break, guys. We will see you after this. We'll be repicking these champions, and you may be able to see that on screen, but it's going to be the same lineup as you saw in the champion select before, and we'll see you after this. Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the EUS Challenger Series number 16 semi-finals, the second semi-final of today. This is STO, Salad Tomat Onion, versus Eternity Gaming. I am Spuddington, and unfortunately today I'm not going to be joined by anyone, because every single person appears to have suddenly developed some form of issue, whether that be real-life computers, internet, or other etc. issues. So, I'm going to be doing your play-by-play, where normally I'm a color caster, and that may prove to do some interesting things when I'm narrating team fights for you. But regardless, guys, I will do the best job I can, given the circumstances, and it does seem at the moment like I'm going to have a fairly passive early game, which suits me down to a T, all things considered. Now, Lee Sin in this area is looking potentially for an invade, but doesn't really know where the other guys are, so he doesn't particularly want to face check it. Does check with Q, but even then, there's always that little bit of doubt, because you might have just managed to thread a needle and avoid hitting people, so he's not going to bother doing that. However, it does seem like Eternity are looking for a late invade on this blue buff here. Now that is dangerous, and a very smart play here that we're actually seeing more and more is to ward there right then, because that late invade has become very, very popular, and obviously therefore the logical thing to do is to just check that brush. Mitigating that aggression there does mean we now go back to kind of standard laning, standard buffs, no buff trades, etc, etc. Does, however, mean that Eternity know where Airwax is starting. The vice versa is also true, but Nocturne is going to play a much more passive and farming kind of jungle, so knowing exactly where he starts isn't as valuable as knowing where Lee Sin starts. Does seem like he is now, in fact, going to be just going for the Wraith Camp, and probably the red. Then I'm actually curious to see if he goes for the gank immediately. Olaf can support early ganks very, very well. There's a lot of damage from Undertow, but Renekton is difficult to pin down. But Lee Sin, if anyone is going to make that work, will be able to do it. Syndra, on the other hand, depends how far forward she's pushed. At the moment she's pushing hard, but it's probably going to reset by the time Lee Sin gets around there. I'm curious to see if she gets punished for that aggression, though. Satchel charges up on Ziggs, obviously bouncing bomb as well. Now, just keeping that eye on Lee Sin there. Going to be taking away his red buff, and it looks like Nocturne is predicting the gank from Lee Sin on the top. That does actually, in turn, however, mean that the value of the gank on the mid lane is increased. However, Airwax is messing with me, so he's just not going to bother. So I'm just going to stop staring at Lee Sin now. Does seem at the moment like we're just fairly defensive play from both teams. So I'm going to go into a little bit of the history here between the two teams. Now, Eternity Gaming obviously are an organization that has gone through quite a lot of rosters, at least 4 or 5 that I have known, different rosters. Actually, I'm going to hold that thought because Airwax is sneaking up behind. He is going to find Lulu here, gets the slowdown with the red buff as well. Keeping on with the aggression, gets the Q down, extra auto, but forces the flash, gets some damage down, and then gets away. Nice little gank, but not quite as massive of a value as he would like from that. That's going to be okay for him, though. Lucian and Annie now are able to push out significantly, so they're not going to be forced up against the tower, which is normally one of the problems you hit. Stratagas actually getting stunned down in that bottom lane, follow up from Lucian, but it's only really a decent bit of poke damage, actually quite a large amount of poke damage actually between the two of them, but not a game changer there. So push control coming back in. Airwax actually also coming back in. He's in the area. Does have his warding trinket, so he can go for that double or even triple gap close effectively. We're using his Q as well as the W and the flash. He's there. He's got the flash stun down. Stratagas now in trouble. He's going to take a lot of damage. Gets brought to his knees there by Lee Sin. And it seems like Ziggs in the mid lane is actually also in a bit of a danger zone right now, but should be okay. He's got the pots. He's going to heal himself up. It's also actually Toridos using his Ignite in the mid lane, and Mikey R his in top. But right now this is going a little bit better than we did see in the previous game. I mean, Eternity obviously fell behind relatively early on in that first game. This game, they seem to have fallen less far behind, although they are actually still starting off not quite ideally, shall we say, but that could just be a single coincidence, because First Blood, very important, but obviously not going to be the absolute end of the world at this point in the game. So 400 gold does obviously therefore go to Lee Sin, and that's going to help him with his snowball when he gets back to the It's back to the spawn fountain, but right now it's not being converted into anything. He does get that little bit of extra experience, which is very important on Lee Sin. But is going to be just taking away these golems and then potentially looking for the lane gank on top. That wouldn't be too surprising. Gob obviously lacking his ignite as well, but could potentially support that gank very, very well, as was highlighted earlier on. Moaf not going to be in the area. He's just taking away the white camp, but in the mid lane, Ziggs taking a lot of damage. Has been stunned up, but forced to flash out. No Q follow-up there from Syndra, so she wasn't able to get that kill. Torodos, though, stamping her authority, or his authority, playing her. I don't. Pronouns are confusing. I don't know how to use them in the case of champion selection. But certainly Torodos stamping the authority of his team, or his player, or his identity. This is a very strange way of referring to Torodos. Torodos is winning the lane right now. There you go. Torodos doing a very good job there, obviously. Pushing Ziggs out early on is always quite difficult, and actually right now in bottom lane we may see a bit more of a trade. There has been a stun, Strategas has been shielded though, and Nikos is a little bit too scary. So again, a trade going the way of Eternity, and Gob actually in the top lane going aggressive. Mikey Arg using Dominus. He's got to be very, very careful. He's got the sustain from his Q, but is it going to be enough? There is an execute component, but it is going to be Gob picking up a kill, and an exchanged kill on to Mikey R there. So not the end of the world, though. Nocturne will be there to pick up the experience and the gold. And between the two of them, that's probably going to be good to have slowed down Airwax's snowball. But simultaneously, it does mean that Mikey R is going to fall a little bit further behind the lane, given that Gob obviously now has gotten his gold from the kill. Giant's belt on both of them, though, so not a major difference between the two of them. The Doran's blade may give Olaf the edge. He's already very much stronger in that sustained engage, but now very, very close combat in mid lane. Ziggs right next to Syndra. Didn't catch how that started, but I assume it would have been a Syndra stun. Certainly, Scat of the Week is on cooldown, so it's always a little bit of an interesting thing, but you have to be very, very careful when you're against Syndra. If you're on anything less than full health at this stage of the game, and she's able to get 1 or 2 Qs on you and then a full combo, you're dead. That is always possible for her to do if you are anywhere else but right next to your tower. And sometimes she can even do it when you're there. So right now, that's kill range for Syndra, that amount of health. And that's always a risky proposition because of the range on the stun of Scat of the Week. You have to be very careful. It does now pick up the blue buff, has got some health pots running. He'll be able to get back into that lane, but it does seem like Syndra not being punished for using her spells very aggressively and for pushing very, very aggressively because of the focus Airwax is being forced to put on that top lane is quite an important factor here. So unfortunate for him, but that's just how the confectionery crumbles. We do have Yuki in the bottom lane continuing to be aggressive, but nothing too special. However, Moaf is now 6. The aggressive lane of Lucy and Annie, this is a very clever positioning thing by Moaf. They're expecting aggression, basically, and they're actually going to go in with the paranoia straight up. Has actually still got Tibbers available, but is he ever going to be able to get it off? No, it seems not. That is unfortunate. And Ziggs in the mid lane also taking a ton of damage. Is going to try and set up his jungler for the kill, but Torodos picks that up, exchanges the kill, and Airwax will be there to push in the lane. Now, Yuki running for his life in the bottom lane, but not actually in any trouble at all. Glitterlance was not going to hit from that range. So, aggression across the board. Now it seems like we are going to see a blue invade here from Airwax, but Mikey R has found him out. Gob quite a long way away and might have the damage here. He's got Ignite, he's got Dominus, he's got Flash, has been kicked away. Will be keeping his blue alive now because Airwax is a little bit low for the contest. Although he slightly fat-fingered his keyboard there and didn't manage to get the ward in the right place, but he should be potentially okay there to contest that. So, for those of you who are just joining us right now, I am solo casting today. Usually I have a co-caster, but unfortunately all of them were absent, so that's a little bit sad for me, as I usually like to be such a social person. Yeah, anyway. Gob in the top lane. That was a little bit. Mikey R in the top lane. Going to be just continuing that trade out. It's nothing too special across the board right now. So, going back to the kind of history of these two teams, Eternity gone through a lot of rosters, as we do well know, and the most recent one is kind of a hybrid here. They picked up 3 players from Roughnecks, as you can tell from their from their tags that they are still wearing, but I'm actually not sure where Toridos came from. There is actually going to be a fight in the jungle, though. Airwax taking a lot of damage. He's getting quite low, but it does seem like the ultimate is not going to be enough there. So actually not going to be a kill. Both teams just pushing each other away. Ultimate from Syndra used, and she took a lot of damage now, though, so that actually puts Ziggs in the driver's seat in the mid lane. And Muath is not going to want to tangle with Airwax at this amount of health. Ziggs, in fact, probably only needs to land a Q and an ultimate right now, and he can get that kill. That does mean that obviously Syndra has to be very, very careful. Airwax is not going to go for that. That would be the Syndrome to the degree of insanity, and I believe that is what it would. That is probably why it's not happening. So, continued defense of this mid lane is actually going to be quite difficult because there's no sustain on either Toridos or Muath, and all it takes is a couple of small chips of damage to force them back. And the wave clear from Ziggs is going to mean they're going to lose creeps if they choose to do that. It does seem like Toridos hanging out of sight is going to force them to push in, so at least she'll be able to stay in XP range, but it's not a good situation. She's going to have to wait for Muath to get back there to support her, or even just for Airwax to give up and go home. I'm not entirely sure how she's going to stop this in the long term. The Q did land there, and I think Airwax does go for it. He's going under the tower, followed up by ultimate Ziggs, and really nicely done. Muath, actually, he's not able to pick up the kill. Did ult in parallel. The dot is ticking as well. Airwax goes down, and now Muath is going to try and chase onto Ziggs, but not able to pick anything up as a result. Yuki going to be getting into a fight with Stratagas in the bottom lane. Culling used. Not going to be enough. Gets turned into a squirrel. Cuts off the pistols. But an exchange in the mid lane there. Airwax for Toridos. Ziggs, well, it's once again kind of a one-for-one exchange, and that seems to be the story of the game so far. Much more even than the previous game, though. STO definitely were getting the better of early trades last game, and they were able to capitalize on that by using a siege-orientated composition. They're much, much weaker in sieging this game, but they're not as far ahead, so the team fighting may be a more important aspect to their composition anyway. As it happens, though, right now, Gob is going to be continuing to kind of dominate this top lane, honestly. He's got about 25 CS over Mikey R, and that's a really, really big gap between them now. As time goes by, that's going to get scary, because typically what we see, I think the majority of the time, I think I can safely say, is jungle Olafs these days. And yes, you do get more gold as a jungler these days, but it's not nearly as much as you can get from a top lane with free farm. However, Dragon is the contest point right now, the flash point if you want to be very military shooter about it, Spungogowiwi. It does seem like Nikos is going to take a lot of damage, and actually Airwax gets behind him, going for the linked insect, but did not jump the gun, did not get the kick away, but Muath sneakily gets in there, finishes off the Dragon, and that's an unfortunate turn of events there for STO. They are actually coming out behind if they're not able to make a kill happen, and you've got to be careful if you're Airwax right now, because Stratagas is right there, and it wouldn't take much for him to go down. So looks like there's going to be a kill in the top lane, though. Gob does pick that one up. Ignite is ticking, and he's juking back into the minions, and the minions are actually still going for him because it's warded, but a little bit too tanky, a little bit too much regen, and he's not going to go down to some mere minions. Tibbers in the bottom lane, though. Stratagas taking a lot of damage, followed up by the Ardent Blaze and dashing in for the finish. The culling used already up again. In fact, I'm a little bit surprised about that, but it is a very short cooldown ability, but he's tanking the tower, has gone low. No cooldown and no mana available for Ace in the hole, and it does look like they are just going to back out there. Let's put both of the teams back onto a very equal footing once again. STO that little bit ahead, just edging out there. So we'll hope to see if they can capitalize on that. Or maybe we'll hope to see that they won't and then we'll get a game 3. I don't know. Depends what you're after in this world. Regardless though, guys, we are now once again approaching that kind of mid-game status, but it seems to me that there isn't too much that's an easy objective to force. None of the towers are really taking too much of a beating. None of the guys in the game are really snowballing too hard. So, arguably, making a gank happen in the mid lane seems like the easiest place, because both of these mages are relatively squishy and relatively lacking in escapes, but it's always a risky proposition just because they all have so much burst, and Airwax is not super tanky at the moment. He has only really built health related items, but that doesn't necessarily make you tanky, and Lee Sin is innately not particularly tanky. I believe he doesn't even get his armor from the W component these days. But Syndra is going to be able to get that ultimate down, forcing the barrier, using the Ignite in return. And now Muaf finds Airwax, who is going to be piecing out over the wall. Gob is there. They may try and turn this around. Muaf is not expecting this lack of communication potentially from Renekton, but the stun comes across. Muaf now going to be getting chased down by Gob. Jumps back across onto Airwax. A lot of juking here, but Gob is going so ham. He's redder than ham as well. Airwax going to be going for Torridos here. Can he get himself out? Gob in trouble. Is actually maybe not in trouble because he's just not taking any damage from Renekton here, but this is a really messy fight, and it does look like there's not going to be a single kill as a result. Bottom lane, though, Kuja popping Tibbers, going aggressive with Yuki as well, but they're going to have to back out. Now, Kuja having to run for his life. I am not cut out for this. I'm a color caster. Yuki now going to be going aggressive once again. They've got the stun onto Stratagas, and Ace in the hole comes across. Kuja in trouble. That's, again, not a single kill. And on that day, nobody died. Nobody died. They are going to be harassing, though, continuing to look for this tower kill, and actually even potentially the kill itself. Stratagas getting his support there, taking down Yuki in a lot of trouble. Got squirreled at a very unfortunate time, and may go down to the attacks from Lulu, but in fact is just going to run for his life. So we do get a kill in the end, and it's actually the aggressors there taken down from STO. Kuja 0-2 and 3 right now, which isn't bad for support in the end, but not quite an ideal situation, because I can definitely see why they went for that dive. Now, regardless, top tower finally falls, and I think that is the first tower of the game. Gob now probably wants to be taking advantage of how beefy he is. He has got that full Sunfire Cape. Mikey are much the same, but double Doran's and Doran's shield really makes him a threat to contend with. But unfortunately, continuing to push top lane, one of the unfortunate facts about using a Sunfire Cape in your build is that it becomes very difficult to relentlessly split push. Actually, Torridos in the mid lane could be in trouble here. Ziggs is going to jump on him. Ultimate popped. Full barrage coming out, but they're not actually able to land most of it. Satchel charge. And another missed Q. Can they actually pin him down? Moath comes out of nowhere, and it does seem like they're going to be able to chase him down, though. Gob is going to throw out everything. Undertow, Axes, Ignite as well. Reckless Swing. Now, are they going to be able to find Syndra concealed in a place that's only really concealed because it's not somewhere you'd naturally be likely to look, and is able to get out? I don't think Ziggs even saw her. So, close run thing there for Syndra, but she's out, away, and gone, and that does mean that's only a 1-for-1 across the board, exchanging junglers. However, Gob picking up kills is possibly not the best thing right now for Eternity at this stage of the game. So we have got a pause coming in now. Not 100% certain what's up with that. Unfortunately, I have really, genuinely, no, okay, actually, no, I do know exactly what the problem is, because I've now looked in chat. Yeah, genius, right. Mikey R is DC or lagging. His team have said both. I assume that means he's actually lagging there, but, yes, indeed, lagging, because if he disconnected, I don't think he would have reconnected quite this quickly, although you never do know. Some things, stranger things have happened, though. It does seem like Yuki and Kuja in this bottom lane are going to continue to push that out. So, nothing too surprising there. And you can get insight into how a color caster's mind works there, because every time I look at a lane, I start thinking, well, there's nothing too surprising or interesting about that lane. Unfortunately, normally that would be a non-vocalized thought. So it's just how it goes right there. Ziggs in this mid lane, though, continuing to be pushed up against his tower. The farm, though, is actually in his favor, and Airwax has found Torridos going for the insect maneuver. Can he actually get the right angle on it, though? No, he cannot. Unfortunate thing there, but Gob in the top lane continuing to push out, continuing to get harassed down on this tower, and Mikey R is forced to just clear the wave away from him. If he takes the Sunfire Cape, though, that does actually mean that Gob aggroes the tower, so in many ways, the best strategy to stop the push on your tower is just to hug him. That way he will be forced to damage you, which is an interestingly kill the kill kind of fact. But anyway, we do have continued slow map pressure across the board. STO's bottom lane is spending a lot of time pushing up. The mid lane actually being pretty much the flip side of that for STO. Eternity pushing up a lot. But no really huge ganks are happening. And that does actually favor Moarth in a lot of ways, because he will out-farm Lee Sin in the long run, and obviously as well outscale him. So he's already got probably a little bit more gold, if I had to guess. 5,700 to 4,600. So yeah, very significant amount of gold between them. And actually a kill in the bottom lane there. It does seem like Yuki is going to chase down Nikios here. And Airwax over the wall. Maybe looking to equalize that gold total. Nope. Kuja picks that up. Stibber's tanking. They will be able to push down this tower now. Surely they have got 2 kills there, but actually opting instead to prioritize the dragon does make a lot of sense, although it does open them up to potential counters here. Tibbers isn't going to last long, and he can tank it. We've actually got Moarth going for Yuki here. He cannot get out of the tether range with only his dash, and now they're going to be forced to try and save him. But if they do that, they put themselves into a dangerous situation where Dragon is potentially going to be contested. Kuja now, can he lock down Moarth? He doesn't have the stun available quite yet. Now he does, but now Moarth is out of range. Very, very unfortunate, but now are going to continue to contest this, but they have to clear this quickly, and Toridos is there. The bomb's coming out, but will Caitlyn be able to get there in time? She actually looks like she's not going to try. She's heading towards her tower, so I'm a little bit confused as to the logic behind that, but you can't always have perfect 20/20 vision. Kuja going for Toridos, and a nice burst comes down. Airwax picks up the dragon, and that puts STO quite significantly in the lead now, about 3,000 gold, with a couple of major power points coming up as well. They've got the Triforce on Lucian. They are in fact going to be going potentially for the dive on Gob here with 2-on-2 here. Gob is just not caring about the tower. That's what's going on there. Mikey R be running for his life actually from that big scary man with the drumsticks, and now it does seem like we've got Airwax going down in the bottom lane. Yuki also there. He's going to be throwing out some auto attacks, but the tower's now starting to drop across the board, and the ace in the hole does not drop Yuki. Comes very, very close, and he is going to have to run for his life. That does, of course, now mean that the rest of his team is going to have to respond. They will indeed do so. They know where Moarth is, and they know they can potentially steal this blue buff. They're going to have to contend with Smite, though. Airwax not in the area. Now, in the bottom lane, another fight going down. Yuki actually gets taken out. Kuja also now in trouble. Has used the Mikhail's Crucible. Going to try and turn around with a stun, but doesn't get it. Doesn't get Strategus under the tower, and a really unfortunate turnaround there. Wasn't really going to escape, though, I guess, is the logic behind that particular switcheroo. So, alright. Taking stock of the situation here, he says, shifting around in his chair. Mikey has disconnected again, apparently, which is the cause of the pause. I'm a poet and I didn't. So, Toridos in the mid lane, continuing once again to be a fairly lackluster Syndra, honestly. In spite of how dominant she was looking relatively early on into this game, doesn't seem to be able to get the aggression down on Ziggs anymore, and is getting harassed out of the lane and getting out-farmed as well. That's not a good sign. Usually Syndra is a fairly lane-dominant character, but she will always have a role in this game because of the fact that Olaf is most likely going to want to dive into the back line, and what you need in order to deal with Olaf is a ton of single-target damage. Now, obviously because he's very, very tanky and because he's got lots of magic resist, if there is an alternative target, Toridos most likely will not be hitting Olaf. But if necessary, Syndra's sustained damage is actually surprisingly high because she can keep using her Q on a target like Olaf as he's running at them, and can always try and finish him off with the ultimate as well. So expect to see her itemize actually potentially a Deathfire Grasp from Athene. So interesting choice there. She's going to be quite delayed on either the Rabadons or the Void Staff. Most likely will opt for the Void Staff first. Does seem to me, actually, I'm personally not convinced by going for a Deathfire. When you're a little bit behind like this, it strikes me that your ability to single target burst someone from 100% to 0% is a little bit dodgy, even if you do get that Deathfire Grasp. And if you've already itemized that Athene's Unholy Grail, you've already kind of specced into that multiple rotations mage playstyle, and now sort of trying to opt out of that and get the best of both worlds. Fear that you may end up with kind of the worst of both worlds as a result of that. Regardless, though, far be it from me to question the decisions of my elders and betters. Of course, I have no idea how old Toridos is, so I can criticize all I want until I know. regardless though, this game is at the present time relatively even. We've seen, obviously, that the goal total has stayed pretty close across the board. Like that early dragon from Moath, the early dragon steal from Moath on the first dragon was obviously a bit of a turnout for the books, and if that hadn't happened, they might have started to fall behind a little bit more, but this is much, much more even than the previous game. I think we can say that with a definitive slant on the words that come out of my mouth. So now the question is, can Eternity convert that as time goes by? Last game, they suffered because they were pushed back against their tower. They were never really able to push out to get objectives, and so they just gradually fell further and further behind on gold. The dragon kept going to their opponents, and that just snowballed against them. Mikey R has reconnected, so should be underweight fairly shortly. But if Eternity this game are able to get themselves a little bit further ahead and be the ones who are initiating, be the ones who get control of the enemy jungle, they have a lot more potential for getting picks than their opponents. Paranoia gangs, Syndra stuns, Renekton jumping out of the brush like a crocodile in a bush. They have a lot of potential catches if they can get ahead, and they're the ones that are kind of playing the aggressive game and taking vision control of the enemy jungle. As things are looking right now, though, they're falling just a little touch behind, and that could become a problem for them in the long run. Their team fight isn't going to be stronger for a long, long time. They're going to have to wait for Strategas to start getting a lot of his damage items up. He's going to need at least 3 items before he's really comparable to Lucian, who obviously has the stronger mid-game, very, very high AD ratios. He's the classic caster AD carry, sort of taken to 11 thanks to his passive, which is the part of him I think that people took a long time to appreciate, and that's why it took a long time. And apparently Mikey R has disconnected again. So that's not exactly what we would describe as ideal. Maybe he lives in the third world. I don't know. I really, really don't know what is causing that particular internet problem. There are, of course, a couple of options. Well, okay, right. We'll see something. apparently, by the way, what actually happened is that Mikey R connected to the TeamSpeak from Eternity. He got in. He reconnected the game. He unmuted his microphone. He said sorry, and then he disconnected again. So yeah, a little bit unfortunate there, but we do just have to contend with that. That's esports. That's the price we pay for being able to play at pretty much any time of day. And I really am rhyming today. So wait, I think I'm getting some words from my producer here. Are you saying something? Oh, he was just humming down the microphone or something. You guys can't hear our producer. We've got special setups on TeamSpeak or whatever. But it's yeah, I don't mind rapping, don't worry. So it's just kind of amusing there. And people are now sending me jokes about exactly what the cause of the disconnecting is. So forgive me if I randomly chuckle. Regardless, though, it does seem like now the focus is going to be onto Gob. He is running for his life. But then again, I say running for his life as if he was actually scared. Gob at this stage of the game is strong enough, not to 2v1, but that he can not really be reasonably killed. As long as he's got his ghost available, he knows that he's gotten out. He ults, he ghosts, he runs. He's basically going to escape from Nocturne unless he's already taken a huge amount of damage in a fight against Mikey R, which he's very unlikely to do at this stage of the game because he's so strong. Now, Airwax has been spotted out. Moath is going to find him, looking for the one-on-one because he can win that at this stage of the game. Sustained damage becoming a lot more important now, obviously with the tanky guys getting tankier, and Moath is now pretty tanky. Has got Paranoia up to rank 2, so he's looking for that potential gank on the bottom lane. I believe they will know that he could be there though, and that's why Yuki and Kuja have pretty much cheesed it. They are now backing off away. No major objective timers available and no major advantages. Both of these teams have a similarly strong late game as well, so that's why you're seeing such defensive play out of both of them. I think it's also partly a playstyle thing, but STO, last game we saw them playing a little bit defensively when perhaps they could have been a little bit more aggressive. We saw them, for instance, they pushed down the middle in HIP. I remember that happening, and then they still had all their guys on full health, and their opponents were actually a little bit low, taking some damage, and they had the position to potentially push the bottom lane, but instead they kind of backed out, went back, and understandably so, they were a long way ahead, but that kind of passivity can sometimes come back to bite you. Now, Airwax's been spotted in the bot lane. It's going to be a 4-man push if Ziggs chooses to go down there and join up. Does seem like that's his intention right now. The Cullen coming across for poke, the wave clear coming out as well, but Airwax being a tanky man with tanky items, just going to be able to take that down. So, nice tower kill there. That's going to just slightly increase the map pressure, just slightly increase the goal difference. And now Airwax actually looking for Stratagas here. He may be able to do it. He's got the insect maneuver down. We've seen him do it at least 3 or 4 times, but is he going to want to do it at this time? Moath is coming from over the wall. Airwax taking a lot of damage, and Stratagas is just constantly auto-attacking from the back line. Yuki going to be diving into the back line, though. Tanky AD carry apparently right now, but Moath is just going to be backing away as well. And now, Torodos is right here. There is a satchel charge on him. Will they be able to burst him down in return? No, it doesn't look like it, unless this last bouncing bomb can get it. They can't, but an auto attack does instead. Muath now diving on, but he's got no mana, no damage, and gonna be forced to run away for his life as well. Bombs bouncing everywhere, and now Stratagas is coming in once again. He's sustained himself back up, presumably just with his Bloodthirster. Gets caught slightly in a situation where he's not sure what he wants, but he decides in the end he wants Ziggs, and he's going to pick that up now. Gob is there, actually looking to cut off Stratagas. Gets him with the ghost popped. He's going to try and run towards Mikey R now. I'm not convinced he's going to be able to chase down and kill him, but he can at least trade favorably for a long period of time. And that is going to be the fight in the end, going somewhat in the favor of STO. So, Gob picking up yet another kill, now 3-0. Scary fellow, but does seem like at the moment he's not so dominant that he can just completely dive anyone he pleases. Now, Dragon has just popped up, and that is obviously going to be the next point of contention. You can see Airwax actually pinging it out. Corridos looking to potentially get a pick on Gob, but because Gob is there, and because Gob, what a name, he's Gob. It's a very appropriate name for anyone playing Olaf. Gob is there, that just means it's very difficult to contest, because you have to be so careful about the potential for an undertow engage, and indeed for an insect engage as well. That is always a possibility. Airwax now actually is sneaking around, has been spotted by that ward. Oddly enough, Yuki has not been spotted, and now that could make Moath regret his decision if that happens. They don't manage to get the engage down, though. It seems at the moment like Airwax is actually going to be potentially going to join up Gob, because Gob is going ham under the tower. Gets dived on by 3 people, and they get the shutdown gold in return. So definitely could have been a worse result, but I have to slightly question the decision making there by Gob, because he's such a valuable tool for his team right now. It's not necessarily worth having him go really ham and die in a 1-for-1, especially for Torodos, who is not worth all that much gold. I mean, still worth a decent amount, but not going to be compared to, 432, which is how much Olaf just gave over to the enemy team. Actually not 100% certain who picked up the kill on that. It was in fact Moath, so this seems to be the phase of the game where Nocturne should be coming into his own now. He is a lot more of a late game orientated jungler. Obviously he's got quite a lot of damage just built into his kit, and interestingly enough he's going for that absolute full tank build. We've seen Ninja Tabby, Ancient Golem, Sunfire Cape, and indeed a Spectre's Cowl. So really tanky build. I'm curious if he's actually going to be a significant enough threat to push back the guys that he's diving, though. He can obviously stick to them and get the fear tether onto them, but I'm a little bit curious as to whether he'll be able to get the kill. Airwax now could be in trouble. Stratagas is up there with a 2-man team, Lulu and Caitlyn, but they have to be careful. Gob is heading up, so is Ziggs, and this is bad for them now. They are cut off. They pop the Talisman of Ascension. Can they put the distance between them, though? Misses the axe there by Gob. Really interesting usage there, I think is how I'm going to call it now. Spinning away. Not going to be able to go in for that, but still forces the flash. Not a disaster once again, but not the big windfall kill that perhaps he was hoping for there. And Gob maybe going to be starting to lose momentum. So, alright. This game is still very, very back and forth. And we've got some interesting objective contests coming out, but they're not being too proactive on either side. It tends to be just a fairly safe objective contest at any given time, and it's only when they misjudge it and it results in an engage that way that things start to get explosive. Now, at the moment, the next objective that you can start to see people are being concerned about is obviously Baron. And there's a very safe Baron clear available to any team which is running both a Lulu, a Nocturne, and a Renekton, because they have they'll take very little damage from starting it, and so they can afford to start it kind of speculatively and then back away if necessary. But in this case, I feel like they're not going to risk doing that unless they're able to get a pick or completely clear out an area. Now, you've got Airwax asking if somebody has DC'd. Mikey R was stationary, but it actually looks like Moath may be looking for it. That stun didn't land on Yuki for some bizarre reason, and it does seem like he's going to be able to use the culling from the backline. Mikey R dives in, but doesn't really do all that much. Gob forced to pop his ultimate. Airwax looking for the insect, gets it with the flash after the W. Super mechanics, and now it does seem like Airwax is going to be looking for the final kill here. Mikey R is going to not go down actually for that kill, but will get picked up by the piercing light there from Lucian, and suddenly the game's been blown. Actually, not merely wide open, but may actually be over straight off of that push, because all the members are down on Eternity, and STO, who are already one game up in this series, are going to take this. The surrender vote comes in there from Eternity, so interesting ending, I'll say that. That was a very, very sudden explosion between the two teams, and really